New York Giants fans, what's up? What's up? What's up? I am here. I am live. I am talking to you from Radio Row in San Francisco for another year. Yes, I'm back at the Super Bowl once again and happy to be with you, happy to talk with you. So you know it's going to be up this week because I got to get my money's worth, right? Got to get my money's worth while we're here. I think it's interesting all of the stuff that is going on with the Giants right now, and I'm here to talk about it all week. I'm here to talk about it all week. But first, I want to say this, and I want to say this before I get started with anything else. I'm not really here to talk about the Tish stuff because, quite honestly, it's too much for me to be able to dive into the way in which I would want to dive into it to talk about it. I'm just going to keep it really simple. If he's involved, then he should probably be in jail. And the fact that that statute of limitation is probably over is a shame. But at the very least, he should no longer be associated with this team. That seems very simple to me if these things are true. I also want to be careful to not just automatically condemn someone because their name is somewhere, right? Or but again, I don't know enough, and so I don't want to speak unintelligently about it. Just know that if you guys are out here saying, man, this person should not be here because they did XYZ, I agree with you if they did XYZ. But I always want to make sure I give the benefit of the doubt in the sense of I don't know. Now, if you know, go crazy, right? If you know, go crazy. I don't know, and so I try to steer clear. What I do know is that nobody expected the coordinator hire to go as it's going right now. Shout out to my guy, Iman Perry. Salute my guy. We back. What I do know is that nobody expected the offensive coordinator issue to go this way. Everybody probably thought it was a rubber stamp, right? You get John Harbaugh, so you automatically get Todd Monken, right? You get John Harbaugh, so you automatically get Todd Monken because Todd Monken's too old. Who's going to hire him as a head coach? Surprise, surprise. The Browns did. The Browns fired a Todd Monken-like coach only to hire a Todd Monken-like coach. Okay. But now it means, what are we going to do with this offensive coordinator position? And the problem with it is, as all of the dominoes fall, the less relationships John Harbaugh has with guys who could be the offensive coordinator. See, the problem when you're a CEO, head coach, and you've had success, all of your coaches just get pinched away by other coaches, by other regimes. And so you don't get a chance to build up that significant tree, right? If you were a head coach who was also the offensive coordinator, it wouldn't matter as much that you haven't found an offensive coordinator because you're the offensive coordinator. But the fact that you're a CEO coach means that if you found a defensive coordinator who probably, was his first choice, boom, cool, you got him. But I was really more worried about the offensive coordinator because there are a lot of guys out there who are talented defensive minds who just haven't received an opportunity yet. And I can understand people getting that first chance, but when you're talking about an offensive coordinator, I heard names being bannered about that I just didn't understand. Like, people kept saying, "Oh, well, let's get Davis Webb." And I was like, "Well, what relationship does Davis Webb have with with John Harbaugh. Like, why would John Harbaugh be ready to turn his offense over to Davis Webb? Just because Davis Webb was on the team for a few years and people think that he's like supposed to be this wonderkin. I've seen a lot. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I've seen a lot of guys get offensive coordinator jobs this year that I don't know if they could actually coach. Like, I don't really know if they can coordinate, but they got offensive coordinator jobs. You know what I didn't see? I didn't see any black people getting offensive coordinator jobs other than Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City. And you could argue that the only reason Bieniemy got an offensive coordinator job in Kansas City is because he was at one point in time the offensive coordinator in Kansas City. I don't think anyone was calling for Eric Bieniemy at these other places. They should. Where he goes, success follows when it comes to the National Football League and the offense, especially the run game. So I don't know why, but they weren't. If you look in the pipeline of coaches, there were a lot of guys who were offensive guys who got head coaching jobs. So then they took their next of kin, if you will. They took their buddy with them. They took their run game coordinator or pass game coordinator. They took their quarterbacks coach. They took their receivers coach, their O-line coach. They took them and made them offensive coordinators. Like, that's what happened. And so now we're in a situation where people are naming guys like Cliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator for the Giants. Like, how the mighty has fallen if we're now downgrading to Cliff Kingsbury. And it's not a diss on Cliff Kingsbury. It's not saying that Cliff Kingsbury can't coach. If the Giants end up with Cliff Kingsbury, they could have done a lot worse. So I want that to be known. If for some reason Cliff Kingsbury is the guy, right? If he is the guy, then the Giants could have done worse than getting Cliff Kingsbury. I don't want to act like they got like a slam dunk, though. We're not going to do that. And I know you guys say that I hate out there, and you guys think that I'm not looking at this thing with any type of positivity, but no, I'm not. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, that's a solid hire, but it's not going to make me go, oh my gosh, they got Cliff Kingsbury. If they would have hired Davis Webb as the offensive coordinator, I would have went, that is a horrible hire. Why? Because he's got zero experience coordinating. I don't care what these people are saying when they're out here telling you guys, oh, this guy is the next hot thing. We're going to see how that's going to work out in Washington, where they hired a guy with no offensive coordinator experience, a guy who wasn't a great decision maker as a quarterback when he played, and now you're going to put him in charge of your offense with a dynamic quarterback. There's a chance they might have success in spite of him if Jaden Daniels is healthy. I don't want an offense where the offense works in spite of the offensive coordinator. I want an offense where the offense works because the offensive coordinator understands how to put people in positions to win, so that if you lose your quarterback for 2 games, you have confidence that your coordinator is going to scheme up something that works for the backup. That if you lose your wide receiver for the year, his answer is not to just throw the ball a million times to the other dude, but it's to scheme up things to get other receivers open so that they have a chance of being successful too. This shouldn't just be like, oh, well, we have the Jimmys and Joes. Let's just rely on the Jimmys and Joes. Everybody in the NFL has Jimmys and Joes. So saying, hey, the Jimmys and Joes, it doesn't matter when everybody has Jimmys and Joes. Everybody. Everyone, to a man, has Jimmys and Joes in the NFL. So then the question becomes, who would make me go, oh, snap, you got him? And it's only one name. There's only one name out there that would make me go, oh, snap, you got him. And I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to jinx it. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to jinx it. But I'll tell you, the longer it takes for the Giants to name an offensive coordinator, the more I think, right? The more I think that they're not getting their offensive coordinator from the NFL. The longer it takes, the more I think that their offensive coordinator is coming from college. And if it is the offensive coordinator that I think they should get, that seems to be a no-brainer, if they're able to grab him, at this point, everybody else is going to be a By the way, that's even if they were to hire a black coordinator. Even if they were to hire a guy who was black. I would love the fact that John Harbaugh empowered a black coordinator. I would love it. But I would still give it a, because I don't know. Who's the name that's going to get me out of my seat going, yes, it's one name and it's one name only. And he coaches in college and he's not a head coach. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. That's the only name. Why? Because I've seen that offense be dynamic. I've seen that offense scheme people up regardless of who the quarterback is. I've seen that offense operate with the Giants' current quarterback in it. And it gets me excited about what would happen if you now had no school to worry about. No limitations on how long you can practice. No limitations on how long you can study and do film study and work on the game. If that person now, right? If that person now had infinite time to just game plan, he didn't have to worry about recruiting. He didn't have to worry about NIL deals and stuff like that because everybody's paid, right? And shout out to the chat. Some of y'all are putting some, I'm not saying it out loud because I don't want to jinx it. If you think that I'm not rooting for the Giants, you got another thing coming. I am hoping that the Giants get this young man to come in and coordinate. Because if they do, I think it's up for Jackson Dart. I think it's up for a healthy Malik Neighbors. I think Darius Slayton gets a boost. I think Wan'Dale Robinson could see himself in an even better light. An even better light than what we saw him in 2025, where he raised his yards per reception to something of a real legitimate wide receiver in the NFL, not that crap that he had in 2024. If we got that man to come in, and I agree, Isaac, I agree. Pay that man. Pay that man his money. Pay that man his money. It's simple. Like, why are we trying to, whatever the price tag is, pay it. Isn't this why John Harbaugh has all this power? Like, who is he going to hire? Let's just be honest about it. Who's out there left to hire that you would go, oh, snap. That's really good. Right? Like, I just don't see it. Who out there can you say, oh man, he really is going to be able to come in and change the math on what they're doing? Like, who's left out there? And that's the problem. Everybody is a friend of a friend right now. All of these dudes who are taking these head coaching jobs and they're taking these Kubiaks and these everybody that comes off of the white bread homeboy Shanahan tree, you know that the duplicate is never as good as the original, right? Like, we can say what we want. We can say what we want, right? Shanahan, if we said Shanahan is the best play caller, best play designer in the NFL, I wouldn't argue with you, right? I wouldn't argue with you. If you said that the buddy up at what with the Rams, Sean McVay was number 2, I wouldn't argue with you. But if you tried to tell me Sean McVay was a better play caller than Shanahan, I would 1,000% argue with you, because he's not. He's not. He hasn't learned how to get multiple receivers legitimately involved in his offense. It always has to be one extremely dominant receiver, right? I'm not saying multiple receivers don't have good seasons. I'm saying he doesn't know, like, it doesn't seem to look the same as soon as somebody's missing. That's all I'm saying. So I would put McVay second. Now, when you start pulling off that tree, whether you want to call it the Shanahan tree or the McVay tree, but let's be honest, it's the Shanahan tree. All of those other guys that are coming off the Shanahan tree, they don't even come close to Shanahan. They don't even come close to McVay. Yet all of them are getting head coaching jobs. Why? Because they touched the hem. They touched the hem of the genius. And so now they get the genius tag. So here we are with the Kubiaks now. The Kubiaks are getting these jobs. Why? Because he was next to. Now, Clint Kubiak, he's done some good stuff. Right? He's done some good stuff. We're going to see all of the iterations of this happen. And as we watch it happen, just look at the return on investment. The offensive innovation in Denver, is it good? No. Nope. Offensive innovation in Denver isn't good. It's ho-hum. Just start looking at the descendant or the family members of this tree. Just doesn't look the same. So who would get me excited? That's the question. And it's one name. There's another part of this that no one's talked about, but I think it's just as important as the OC. Who's really the offensive line coach? Right? Because Harbaugh didn't get the offensive line coach that everybody thought he was going to bring with him from Baltimore. That guy decided to go with the offensive coordinator who took the job with the Browns. That offensive line coach most likely had on his plate the Browns and the Giants, and he chose the Browns, whose offensive line is terrible. It's probably the second or third worst offensive line in all of football. Right? It's probably the second or third worst offensive line in all of football. The Giants' offensive line as a whole, when healthy last year, was not bad. And yet he chose to go over there. And then because the Giants were dragging their knuckles, you know what happened? Brian Daboll took the job with the Titans and quickly took Carmen Bricillo with him. And so now you don't have the offensive line coach that people thought were going to come with them, and you don't have the incumbent offensive line coach who seems to be a really darn good offensive line coach. So now the question then becomes, who is the offensive coordinator? Right? Who's the OC? I mean, not offensive coordinator, who's the offensive line coach? Like, who's that guy? Because we don't know who the O-line coach is. We've heard reports that they're hiring Grant Newsome, right? Who's the O-line coach at who's the O-line coach at Michigan. And so now Grant Newsome, the O-line coach at Michigan, a brother. And yes, I'm going to keep bringing up the fact that they're brothers because I need to boost up the fact that we don't have any black coaches running around here, even though we have a whole bunch of black players. So yes, I'm sorry. I'm going to keep mentioning it. You can be mad all you want. I don't give a darn, right? So shout out to Grant Newsome for coming over, but he didn't even get the offensive line coach job. They announced him as the assistant O-line coach, which tells me they don't trust him to be the O-line coach, or else why not just make him the O-line coach? So now the play is, who's the offensive line coach? Right? Like who else would be the offensive line coach? Somebody in the chat, tell Jers to chill with the name. We're not naming him. We know who we want as offensive coordinator. We know who we want. And it's not Davis Webb. I'm telling you, I want somebody who has done the job. This is not the time for experiments underneath. There's no time for experiments underneath a head coach who is a CEO head coach. The CEO head coach can't be the one giving people with zero experience on the offensive side their first chance, unless that person comes from within the organization already. So like if Davis Webb had been underneath the previous offensive coordinator in that offense that had success, then you know what? I feel a lot better about it. That's why it makes sense for him to get his first offensive coordinator job in Denver. It didn't make sense for him to be here. He's going to have no ties to the no ties to the regime. No opportunity to show that he's had success or he was a part of the success. That Denver offense was not fly last year. Why are we out here wanting to promote Davis Webb? The Denver offense got the offensive coordinator fired. Why are we out here thinking about Davis Webb? He was a part of that offense as a coach where the offensive coordinator got fired. Somebody make it make sense. We can't. We just want him because someone somewhere told us he's supposed to be good. Guess who I know is good? That person that resides down south in college who has experience coordinating. Right? That's who I want. The person who is comfortable if you take your hands off and just let him go. Again, it's easier, and shout out to Isaac Moore, right? Because he made the point, right? Denver's offense is Sean Payton, meaning if for some reason things are not going right with the offensive coordinator that you just hired, because he's still learning the ropes, he's got you to lean on as the head coach who's the offensive mastermind. But if your head coach is not an offensive mastermind and you get in trouble, all he can do is tell you how to be a good leader. He might be able to reach out and give you some resources to look to help you, but he can't help you. Why? Because he don't know offense like that. If you ask him to be a defensive coordinator, guess what? He don't know defense like that. Now, if the special teams coordinator needs some help, that's when you can call on Harbaugh, because that's what he did. That's where he cut his teeth at. I've already told you guys who the one guy is that I want. It's a one-name list. Everybody else is okay. We'll see, right? If it's not that guy down south who may or may not be the son of a former head coach, who may or may not have been an offensive coordinator at a tender age of like 24 at one point in time. If it's not him, if it ended up being a guy, you know, if it ended up being, you know, the former offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins, Cliff Kingsbury, I wouldn't be upset at it. I wouldn't talk bad about the hire, right? I wouldn't talk bad about that hire if it ended up being Cliff Kingsbury. It just wouldn't be inspiring to me. I wouldn't jump up and down. I'd be like, okay, all right. I would still wonder how good he is above the Jimmys and Joes, right? I wonder how good he was above the Jimmys and Joes. So I'm those are my two names, right? That one guy that'll remain nameless, and then, you know, Kingsbury, if you gotta. After that, man, we rolling the dice out here, man. We playing. You can just throw the dice out there. None of these other guys would give me any kind of like, oh snap, we got him. Nah, I'd be like, yeah, y'all in trouble, man. We gonna have to pray together. We gonna have to figure it out. I hope that he does well, but I won't be in here going banging the table. But if you get that guy, if you pry him away from all that good cooking down in that crawfish daddy area, if you're able to get him away from that climate, I feel like there's some M's that'll do it. Maybe 4 or 5 of them. If you pay him like essentially he's the head coach in waiting, because we know that Harbaugh isn't a young coach, even though he looks and he seems to have that energy. If we say, hey, you know, I could see it in 5 years, him just stepping in, cool. Pay him like that. But get him, and then let's get excited about this team. Go out and find an offensive line coach you trust, and then let's get excited about this team. Right? Then let's turn our attention to who's getting drafted, who's coming in free agency. We're waiting it's been too long. It's been too much time trying to figure out what this coaching staff looks like. There are guys who have gotten head coaching jobs yesterday and have already put together staffs more public than the Giant staff is. That's a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here. I'm here in San Francisco. I'll be coming to you live all week. It might not be at the same time. Like, for instance, it's like 9 something there right now. I probably will not be coming to you at 9 something tomorrow. It'll probably be during the daytime. But I will be live all week, every single day. What I need you guys to do is I need you to run it up. I need y'all to make sure that these views are going up. I need y'all to make sure y'all are telling a friend to subscribe. You got to make it worth it. Got to make it worth it for me to be out here and then hitting y'all up when the other entities, they breaking their bread, baby. I'm just saying, if you look around out here, it's a lot of money out here. Lots and lots of money. And I just want to be in the number. Hey, I almost wasn't here. And so I'm happy and proud to be here once again. This is my 5th year at the Super Bowl. So I am blessed to be on Media Row once again. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.